Can I tell people we're in?
Yeah. Hey guys,
Hi, Blake.
sorry about this. I think everybody's getting in. So I'm not a I'm not a real believer in the in this new process here with I don't know. I hope everybody got. Looks like a lot of people got the link, but I've gotten a couple. I got a couple people still. Is my Randy? Are you in?
I said I registered and I never got a confirmation back from SABR. And then after I texted you, I re-registered again and it popped. It came right up.
Well, it just wouldn't let me in as the host. You know, I have to sign on and come in as the SABR host, and it wouldn't allow me into my own meeting. So
Maybe it's the
anyways.
haircut. I didn't recognize it.
Huh?
Maybe it's the
Yeah.
haircut.
It could be the haircut.
It's the hair. It's always the hair.
Hey,
Anyways,
I'm not seeing-
my apologies.
No
I'm
problem.
not seeing
I
Randy
see
Mobley.
Randy.
Oh, do you?
A
Okay.
minute ago.
I
Yes,
am.
I'm here.
Here he is.
Randy, I see you. Guys, thanks for being patient. Thanks for being patient. Let me see if I have to admit anybody else in. Okay. Randy, thank you for showing. And thank you for sticking with it here 15 minutes after the fact. I really appreciate it.
Not a
If
problem.
you see down below, I see it's actually transcribing what I'm saying down there. This is a number of new things are happening today with the National SABR office, and I'm using that, so you can see that down below. So, anyways, so I'll be careful not to throw them under the bus with my frustration here. So, Randy, I think everybody knows from the email that he's the president of the International League. And Randy, I think you've been there for 30 plus years or so. This should be like, you should just be basking in the glory here and not trying to refigure out what your environment is.
This
With that
wasn't
introduction, I'm going to let you take over.
okay. Thank you. Yeah, this wasn't what I had anticipated at this stage of my career, but I'm sure there are many others who can say that as well. Interesting times. The confluence of events of the last 18 months have just been phenomenal. When you combined the effects of COVID along with Major League Baseball's desire to turn the minor league baseball world upside down, it's been just short of devastating, quite honestly, to our teams. There's so much information to cover. I'm going to try to give a bit of an overview, and then would welcome questions and to take the discussion in whatever direction that you might find interesting and appropriate. So as everyone knows, there was no minor league baseball season in 2020. The teams now have gone since August, September of 2019, since they've had any revenue to speak of. Office staffs, especially at the AAA level, that are usually 40, 50 people, in most cases are now, you can count certainly on two hands, and most of them you can count on one hand. It's again, I don't mean to portray this as being the only industry that's been struck like this, but it's certainly been struck very, 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 very hard, and very, very much so to the heart of the industry. So our teams are, I've used the phrase "wounded in the water" a number of times. They're very vulnerable. That has played right into Major League Baseball's desire to completely change the structure. Not to infer that there was anything Major League Baseball could do to bring these factors together, because there certainly wasn't. That's entirely coincidental, but the effect has been devastating. Major League Baseball and minor league baseball began discussions a little over 2 years ago on a renewal to the player professional baseball agreement, which was the agreement that has for many decades bound minor league baseball with Major League Baseball. And they came out of the chute wanting to eliminate between 40 and 45 minor league teams. Our early response from our negotiators was to resist that. Major League Baseball didn't receive that well, and things went downhill from there. One of the challenges, at that point, minor league baseball consists of roughly 160 domestic teams at multiple classifications. So as the discussions progressed, the internal challenges were almost as great as the external challenges. The needs and wants and concerns of a short season rookie league team are different from a AAA team with a metropolitan area of 150 million people. So the process of determining who was going to represent minor league baseball, how you represented all interests, to cut to the end result, there were three different negotiating groups over this period of time, which added to the challenge. Major League Baseball seized that to their every opportunity to accuse and refer to disarray. Their goal from the start had been to conquer and divide and conquer, and to some degree, we allowed that to happen based on the internal challenges. Major League Baseball's desires really relate to two different areas. One, control. I would put that at the top of the list. One of their negotiators, a major league owner early on at the negotiating table, simply said, "We're tired of your millionaires telling our billionaires what they can do." They don't want any rules or any people that can alter what they want to accomplish. They don't want, if they want to change rules in the game, they want the unilateral ability to do that. And they are accomplishing that. So control is right at the top of the list. And as part of that, they want to eliminate the minor league baseball office in St. Petersburg, which they have done, and eliminate league offices, league presidents, which is in the process of happening. But as far as Major League Baseball is concerned, it has already happened. All communication now goes directly from the commissioner's office to the individual Major League Baseball teams. There's no one in between Major League Baseball and the teams themselves. So they have just recently issued a 110-page document that will provide much of the details of the relationship. They will now, I'll use the word seize inventory with each of the ballparks from a marketing and promotional side of things. Major League Baseball will now be involved with local landlords, county, city governments, and whoever the landlord is. Major League Baseball will insert themselves in lease negotiations. They will make all decisions again relative to the game itself. As far as scheduling goes, they'll make all decisions now on scheduling, dictating greater number of off days. Player health and wellness is at the core of many of their decisions these days. They're requiring significant restrictions on game times. The education days that have become so popular within minor league baseball, there are now significant restrictions on those. They don't want players having to play during the day. There are changes across the board. As far as fans go, I'm not sure that they will see many of the changes. Again, the example I use of game times, that's one that they will see. If a team's got to travel, after a game, you're going to have to start your games earlier in the day. Not afternoon or morning, but late afternoon, early evening. As I say, a number more off days. For 2021, it's going to be an anomaly due to COVID. There will probably not be an all-star games, probably not be AAA championship game, and quite probably not even any playoffs. They're talking about having the schedule the regular season playing schedule go through September. What it might look like after that is anybody's guess at this point in time going into 2022. So, the decision that clubs have to make is with all these greater restrictions, with the financial hit that they're going to take in the loss of inventory, increased requirements as far as facility standards. Are they better off playing in affiliated baseball and basically purchasing the right to be affiliated with a major league team, or are they better off considering operating as an independent team and grouping with other teams and going that route? That decision has yet to be made by everyone. Teams have until roughly February the 10th to sign on with Major League Baseball or decide to go a different route. Had we not been dealing with COVID and the restrictions and the lack of income, I think there might be clubs that would more seriously consider that independent route. But as I said earlier, our clubs are, and I say our clubs, meaning minor league clubs in general, not just international league clubs, are wounded in the water. And they don't have those reserves that they might otherwise be able to work their way through a new world for them as an independent league club. I think the likelihood that teams go that route is not very great. If clubs try to push back on Major League Baseball, one of the significant things that did happen is Major League Baseball did in fact eliminate 42 previously affiliated teams, many of them at the rookie league level, short season. There are a couple of examples, and I'll use one in Trenton, New Jersey, former AA team in the Eastern League. And on the day when, if you were in the medical field, you would call it match day when you find out, where you're going for your residency. Baseball had something similar to that in that Major League Baseball on a particular day here a short while ago sent communication to each team that they wanted to invite to continue a relationship with them. Trenton didn't get that communication, and that has struck a loud chord with teams in that, let's say I want to push back on Major League Baseball, or I decide that I'm not going to go that route. Major League Baseball is fine to go a different route. And clubs have in mind what happened to Trenton and a couple of other clubs. I'll use as an example, team in Kane County, Illinois, outside of Chicago, that has a successful history, did not get one of those invites. Now, if I'm, just hypothetically, if I'm the team, a AAA team in Des Moines, Iowa, with the Chicago Cubs, and I want to try to push back against Major League Baseball, what's keeping Major League Baseball from simply saying, thank you, Des Moines, it was nice working with you. We'll go to this nice ballpark in Kane County, Illinois now. If I'm the Louisville Bats in the International League working with the Cincinnati Reds, and I want to push back, what's keeping the Cincinnati Reds from deciding to go across the river to Florence in that independent league ballpark, the nice independent league ballpark that sits right there on Route 71, and we'll put our team in there. So our teams are really in a very difficult situation right now. And they can't get their gates opened up soon enough. That's a bit of a rambling start, I guess, to our conversation here. But that's where we are. We don't know. We're told to plan on opening day in early April, but they haven't begun to develop a schedule for this year yet, because the teams have not signed the document yet saying that they're on board. That doesn't happen there, as I mentioned, till early February. So late February at the earliest is probably when anyone will see playing schedules. That's another responsibility that previously had been at the league level, and now Major League Baseball will do all minor league schedules in their office in New York. So that's the ugly part of it that's out there right now. This particular group I know follows professional baseball very closely. Some of that you may have heard, much of that you may have heard about previously. Major League Baseball has a wonderful PR staff and can put a positive spin on just about anything. And we have seen that throughout. I'll tell you a brief story. The New York Penn League is one of the leagues that has now lost their affiliation with Major League Baseball. And they, as is the Pioneer League and the Appalachian League, going to be, for lack of a better term to describe them all, prospect leagues. And Major League Baseball and the New York Penn League went to both local public officials and state senators, state congressmen, same thing on the federal level, and got comments, positive comments from roughly 25 of them, representing each of the cities in the new league that was being established with many of the old New York Penn League teams. And these politicians saying, what a wonderful thing this was to now have these young prospects coming through and maintain this support of Major League Baseball. And when I say support, it doesn't mean financial, it just means encouragement for players to play there. And this owner said to me, I'm getting calls from many of these politicians congratulating me on this new situation we have with Major League Baseball. And it's all I can do to bite my tongue and tell them that it's not, it's putting lipstick on the pig. It's not a positive situation in our particular view. So they spin things and have quite the operation to do so. So with that, if that's kind of an introduction here, let's hear what you'd like to visit on.
Randy, I've got a list of some questions here, and if others have questions, if you'd use the chat line, just there's 30 some of us on the call. I think it'd be easier to manage. But this agreement that supposedly has to be signed by the 10th of February, I understand they were talking about it's a 10-year agreement.
That's correct. That is a 10-year agreement. So in the past, where you had player development contracts with your major league affiliate, that would last either 2 or 4 years. The professional baseball agreement was a 10-year agreement. So their argument is that we're giving you this 10-year agreement, which is no different than what you had in the past, which is true. The differences are that, and that's the length of your new relationship with your affiliate as well, unless Major League Baseball wants to change that along the way. And they now have the authority to do that during that 10-year agreement, simply because they want to, or maybe there's something geographically that has occurred. So they have the unilateral right to change that. What you would be guaranteed is an affiliated team during that period if you have lived up to all of their rules. Now that 10-year agreement, while I mentioned it is the same length as the last professional baseball agreement, our contention was that no one ever anticipated the industry would be turned on its ear as it has been now. So for a team to get any type of stadium financing in discussion with your landlords, there's a whole different mindset right now of uncertainty, because at the end of that 10 years, you are not guaranteed anything after that. So they could, in 10 years, they could do this once again. And there's even been some suggestion by them that they might be interested in further reducing the number of teams at that point in time. So the way you approached leases, the way you approached your financial institutions in years gone by, where right or wrong, everyone viewed these relationships as being in perpetuity. Now that 10 years is a bit scary when you talk about making long-term commitments, whether it be communities or, as I say, financial institutions.
In terms of some of these implications to these cities, and kind of speaking of politicians, have any members of Congress who truly understand these implications, is there any possibility of revisiting the MLB's antitrust exemption?
Well, that is the ultimate hammer, obviously. Again, I talked earlier about the various circumstances. This is another one of the circumstances. The political side of things, minor league baseball had it significantly engaged on a national level 18 months ago to up until probably about 4 or 5 months ago. The primary attention was initially paid to those teams in those 3 leagues that were going to lose their affiliations: the Pioneer League, the Appalachian League, and the New York Penn League. Those politicians were significantly engaged. Politicians elsewhere to a lesser degree, but still engaged. Now, once Major League Baseball and their PR machine got going within those 3 leagues that were going to be eliminated, those politicians came on board with Major League Baseball. As far as any ongoing effort, again, once COVID get fired up midsummer. Once you start focusing on the election, once there becomes an impeachment, all of those things redirected those politicians' attention in areas of greater priority than what was happening here. So that has run hot and cold at different times, but it's been very difficult to get any traction in the last several months.
Okay. Talk about players just a little bit. It does sound like and I'm quoting an article that just in this week's Baseball America. I mean, they were at least optimistic that while there's fewer players, those who are in affiliated ball will have higher salaries, better training facilities. I mean, for them, it's kind of an upgrade. It's just the ones who don't make that. Are some of the partner leagues gonna still have players kind of quote owned by MLB?
The major league controlled players will only remain in affiliated baseball. So these partner leagues, the various independent leagues, will still be paying their own players. Now, players within affiliated baseball most certainly will receive pay increases, as was reported in that Baseball America article. That's a fact. I think the facility knock, if you will, is overblown. There's no question that there are some facilities within minor league baseball that continue to need attention. But again, we're a long way from when it was the Bush Leagues. Even the commissioner of baseball, in a press conference that's now been roughly 18 months ago, made some off-the-cuff comment about players traveling in school buses. There hasn't been a player in the minor leagues that has traveled in a school bus for at least a couple of decades. But that concept, or that idea that it's so difficult has really been overblown. And I think that's the same thing with the facilities. Again, you all who have visited minor league ballparks know what's happened there in the last 15, 20 years. And yes, there are were some at the lower classifications that need attention, and they still do. But when they talk now about significant facility upgrades, you're talking about needing a locker facility for females, whether they be umpires or coaches or things like that. I'm not suggesting that they're things that aren't necessary, but they're not things that are a result of a ballpark that's falling down. Lighting is going to be increased at some of the lower levels up to the same level as at the AAA level. Many of the things and facilities that they're talking about, and again, Major League Baseball wants a cafeteria or a food preparation area in both clubhouses. Well, you're telling me that one food preparation area serving both clubhouses couldn't work? So when they talk about facility upgrades, they're talking about things like that. They're talking about places in the facility, and the number of major league people in a ballpark on a nightly basis has increased over the years, as they have, people running different computer systems and recording different information and so forth. So they need space for more people. They need a video room. That's the kind of thing they need. And again, not saying that it's not necessary or we shouldn't provide it, but when they talk about facility upgrades, more of it is those type of things than saying you need to paint this or you need to do this, that, or the other because the place is falling down. That's a concept that is that they like to enhance, but it's really not, it's not accurate. The ballparks in general are in good shape.
Randy, what's the players union stance on all this? How involved have they been?
The players union, this is a gray area that even in my 40 years in the game, I don't understand. Why is the players union weighing in on, what's happening at the lowest levels of the minor leagues when those individuals, over 90% of them will never be a member of the Major League Players Association. But Major League Baseball will, I think, use that in some cases to not only delay acting on things, but to put things off. They have had very little involvement. There are some areas where Major League Baseball has indicated they have had to discuss with the Players Association. But as far as significant involvement, there really hasn't been any there.
Back to scheduling. I mean, one of the things it at least that Baseball America kind of showed that it was even uncertain how many teams were going to be in the International League versus the Pacific Coast League, whether those would even be the names. But it kind of lined up 20 teams in the IL and back to 10 in the PCL. Is that one of those things that can't get resolved until February 11th?
That's exactly right. Now that is the plan at this point in time at the AAA level, that they've got them grouped as 3 divisions within a 20-team group of 20. I'll call it the International League, even though you're 100% accurate. They have not committed to league names. They may simply go with AAA Baseball East and AAA Baseball West, and 10 teams in what is or will be the Pacific Coast League. So that is their plan at this point in time, but it is pending the clubs executing that document in early February. This is one of the areas that I struggle with significantly. Is I in our office, we've got minutes from International League meetings for over 100 years. We have proudly revived our International League Hall of Fame roughly 15 years ago, and that has a long storied history. If they change the name, and I don't know what happens to all of that. I don't know. And now that you have information that's both in hard copy and digital, where does all of that go? That's part of what we're in the process of trying to figure out. My hope is that they will at least retain the name of International League, that the International League would then add the 6 teams that go from the current 14 up to that 20, and that the International League becomes more of an association, I guess. It won't have any real authority as it relates to Major League Baseball. But if those 20 teams wanted to continue to have a Hall of Fame, they could. They simply do that on their own. And that there would be some teams that will step up and want to house some of this information and these materials that have been accumulated over the years. I was telling somebody on the phone yesterday, in my office, and I'm in my home office now, but in our actual office, I have an old leather couch and 2 old leather chairs that George Sisler had in Rochester in his office when he was the president of the International League. So it's just things like that quite honestly bring a tear to your eye when you think about it all going by the wayside. As you can tell, I have a tendency to go on different rants and different down different rabbit holes these days.
So, I mean, a couple things that it sounds like, I mean, the fact that there's been such an emphasis on trying to cut down on travel, I mean, it feels like the fear will be out there that we're going to end up playing the same teams over and over again. We're not going to have playoffs. What about things like day baseball? Are they talking about? I mean, again, I feel like particularly at the lower levels and even in AAA, I mean, you have a lot of, I think the Clippers had 5 noon games or, midday games. Where do you see all that going, or do you know yet?
Well, there are certainly greater restrictions on that now. Again, the education days that oftentimes would start before noon, I think that now off the top of my head, if I can recall, I think you're able to play one of those that can start, between 11 o'clock and noon or something like that, or start at noon. And where the challenge comes in is there are restrictions in playing day games after night games the night before. If you've had an off day the day before, then you've got a little bit more latitude with your game time. On that subject, there's also provisions now where your game times can be affected by the average temperature in the facility that you're going to play in during the first half of the month and the second half of the month. So, for example, if I'm in Durham, North Carolina, and I want to play a day game in August, I can only do that if the average temperature for the period of time when I want to play that game, whether it be the first half or the second half, is less than a certain temperature. The degree to which health and wellness has now been elevated is can't be understated, quite honestly. So teams now, that you previously are going to make your game time decisions based on fan appeal, quite honestly. In most cases, you certainly had in mind team travel, but now the health and wellness aspect of this has totally overtaken any other considerations when it comes time to considering game times. So I think, back to your question, there will still be some of those. There won't be to the degree which there have been previously. And you're going to see some inconsistencies whereby, you could count on teams starting at 7:05 or 7:15. Now there are going to be many other things that enter into that where they may now be starting at 6:30 or 6:45, different things of that nature.
In terms of some of the activities in minor league baseball, whether sponsors, that a team sponsors a particular inning or a giveaway, or 2-for-1 if somebody hits a home run, how much control will the minor league team still have in terms of those kind of agreements versus what they had before?
Here's where Major League Baseball is getting into the pockets of minor league baseball. This is a very significant portion of the agreement, in that now, where previously the team controlled 100% of its inventory, now the team can only have 3 exclusive partners. So I'll use Columbus as an example. I suspect that they would want to have Huntington Bank as one of their exclusive partners. Major League Baseball could not sell a bank a sponsorship in minor league or in the Huntington Park. But as you can imagine, we have teams that have 20 exclusive sponsorships. They can now have 3, meaning that Major League Baseball can then sell national arrangements for anybody that you have not excluded, and can come into your ballpark, require there to be some signage, require there to be a video commercial on your video board between innings, require that there be a contest between innings involving that sponsor. So the teams have had to give up a certain number of those between inning sponsorships, a certain number of the video board advertisements, a certain number of other appearances to Major League Baseball to sell on a national level. Major League Baseball has said very early on, part of the reason why this is going to be good for you, minor league baseball, because we're going to reduce your expenses and we're going to increase your revenue. Well, those of us who have been at it for a long time have been down that path of trying to sell national advertising. And it's, again, Major League Baseball is a much bigger gorilla than we've ever had behind that. But the success that we have had, and many people other than I, at doing that has been very, very limited. Minor League Baseball is a local and a regional entity. That's where the appeal lies. They may have some success, but part of this arrangement now, as I talk about this, increase your revenue and decrease your expenses, that was part of why they said you don't need a minor league baseball office, you don't need league offices. You're duplicating, we can do that, we're going to save you money. So they're going to move everything to New York City, where you're going to pay rent, you're going to pay higher salaries, everything's going to be higher. Now you're going to get into the team's pockets, and all of the expenses that Major League Baseball now has in running minor league baseball is billable back to the minor leagues in the form of reducing what they sell. So whatever Major League Baseball sells, the cost of running the minor leagues gets taken out of that. And then Major League Baseball and minor league baseball will split that difference. And on minor league baseball sides, you're going to share it between 120 teams. So this is not played out as Major League Baseball originally presented it, and the economics are very, very challenging, very difficult. There are some of us who question whether our teams will ever see $1 of that revenue split.
It sounds like with all those changes, the role of the general manager is changing drastically here. What do you see as potentially their new role?
Their primary new role is going to be figuring out how to make this work in the big picture. How do we create and develop new inventory that offsets the economic impact this is going to have on us. Again, as the fan going into the ballpark, they're probably going to see, as I say, we have some teams, I'll use the video board as an example, and I'll use Columbus as an example. Ken Schnocky has been very, very reluctant to let those commercials run in excess in that ballpark. Just as they like to keep the outfield wall clean from a lot of the signs that other teams have, didn't want that video board to simply be an avenue for commercials. So they've limited those. Now they're going to be forced to do a little bit more of that. So a fan might see that, he might notice that. A fan might notice some new advertisers. But I think, and it's yet to play out, the concern that I have is the fan going to have to see it in the cost of going to the ballpark? That's where potentially I think the fan will see this. They're not going to see it in the caliber of play. They're not going to see it in different players. It's going to be the same general operation. So I think many fans who are not as astute as those on this call as it relates to the operations of minor league baseball, many fans won't see much or any difference at all unless it comes in the form of what it costs to go out to the ballpark.
Okay. A couple questions as they're coming in. So it would seem like for players coming out of high school, there's now going to be more of an incentive to either A, go to college, or B, go directly to independent league teams, strictly because there's, instead of drafting 40 players a year and filling out 6 teams, there's 4 affiliated teams. It looks like college baseball could be the big winner here in terms of that or independent leagues. I guess it's a statement more than anything, but is that what you see is happening?
Well, I think the colleges probably will benefit. Maybe it's those, I'll call them second tier college baseball programs that will benefit. You know, a player who might have decided to sign as a lower round draft pick, you know, now, you know, we're not going to be talking about, I don't think it's going to have any effect on Vanderbilt or North Carolina or Fresno State or any of those big time programs. You know, I think it's more likely that some of those lower round players who would have been drafted that aren't may go to some of those, again, second tier college programs and below that. I don't think the top line college programs will see much effect. As far as going to the independent leagues, again, you know, I've got to throw those 3, the former Pioneer, Appalachian, and New York Penn leagues into that group. And I do think that, you know, that is what Major League Baseball is saying, is they want to push some of those players to those leagues who would have otherwise been drafted. Now, whether it works out that way or not, it will be interesting to see. But I think there is some truth to your premise there.
Looking at just our environment with the COVID impact, do you think that the result of what Major League Baseball is doing, would it have been as, this feels severe or big, would it have been as big had COVID not kind of forced big changes to begin with?
Well, it played into Major League Baseball's hands, and again, they had nothing to do with it, but it did dovetail with what their plan was. It would have given our clubs greater, a larger window to look through as to what their future might be or what they might be able to consider. Again, as I said, they are so financially strapped at this point in time. They simply need to get the gates back open and get back in operation. You know, there are some issues, and you mentioned earlier the 10-year license agreement that Major League Baseball has come up with. You know, there are some people, as I said, there's no guarantee that after 10 years you're going to be issued another invitation. And there are some people who wanted to spend a great deal of time focusing on that. We need a longer commitment. We need there to be some assurance that if I don't get issued a license, there's some compensation for basically putting me out of business. While there are others of our folks who are saying, man, I wish I could focus on something 10 years down the road. Right now, I've got to focus on what I can get going in 2021 or 2022. So again, I come back to that varying perspective that you're going to have when you've got 120 different individual business entities trying to look out for what's their in their best interest.
And in terms of the partner leagues, if they come across star players, do you think they will sell those contracts? I mean, that might be leverage that they'll have. Will they sell that to the Major League Baseball?
I can't say that I've given that a lot of thought. I don't know. If that will be any, I guess it would not be any different than what we have known independent baseball to be in the last number of years. If they want that contract midstream, yes, there probably would have to be a purchase of that contract. Major League Baseball has thought of everything. So I would not be at all surprised if in these relationships that they've developed with these partner leagues, that is probably addressed in there in Major League Baseball's best interest. I don't know that to be a fact, but to the degree which we've seen them dot every I and cross every T and everything in their favor, I would be shocked if they haven't made arrangements for that to be addressed. That's a good question.
Blake, you're on mute.
There we go.
I think toggling the chat button, I accidentally hit muted myself. Now I lost my train of thought. In terms of growing the game, so many of these things seem like they're not that fan friendly, taking away playoffs from the game. It's starting to feel like these are spring training games. It doesn't really matter who wins. It sounds like there's limited to be determined, but it doesn't sound like there's going to be intra-divisional games, or at least not many, so that we're probably not going to see Durham much, if at all. Who's responsible for that? That's what I would normally expect the league
Right.
offices worrying
Absolutely.
about. And if
Well, you hit a hot button, one of my hot buttons, I guess, when you used the term spring training. I have been on my high horse for the last several years, going back to an incident with John Smoltz when he was playing in the league, as he was trying to keep his career going, in that the disrespect that has been shown to the game at our level continues to snowball. And the terms that I have used is they continue to make our games more like spring training games. And that eventually is going to be part of what's going to kill the golden goose that we have here. And it started out with John Smoltz when he wanted to use a Major League Baseball in International League games when he was down on rehab. And so now, ever since then, now 10 years ago, we've used two different baseballs in the games. When a Major League rehab pitcher's pitching, you use one ball, and the rest of the time you use a different ball. It's crazy. more recently, we're putting runners on second base in extra innings. Some of the player roster things that are allowed to happen these days. That has been a concern of mine for quite a while. And you're exactly right. I view that as being one of the responsibilities of the league office and the league president, is to look out for those integrity issues. Major League Baseball's response to that is, number one, on the Smoltz issue, there are players, and if that's what our player wants to do, we're going to let him do it. So that is demonstrative of the attitude there. The other thing is that, and there is some truth to this, and whether we like it or not, we all have to admit this. If a AAA team has 10,000 people in the ballpark, there are probably 1,000 of those people who are there because they would say they love the game of baseball and they follow it. There are probably 9,000 people who are there because it's Johnny's Little League night or because it's our office outing night. And again, that's we can't ignore that. That's who we are. But I've often said that the minute that we allow the game to be downplayed or we underestimate the game, we may as well just be a carnival and do face painting and have games that we're running in the concourse. Major League Baseball, in my opinion, does not have concern about the game at the minor league level. They view it as being a place where they can experiment. And to some degree, that's not new. The designated hitter was used in the International League and a couple of other leagues before it was used in the Major League as an experimental rule. But it's gone to an extreme, in my opinion, these days. The Major League Baseball attitude is that they know our fans better than we do. Again, I talk about the league names. They said to one of our negotiators, who is an owner in the International League, "What's up with this International League name?" He said, "You don't have anything that's international. Fans don't understand that. We need to change that." Had no idea of the history of that, where it come from, why it really doesn't matter if there's an international team right now or not. But they're viewing it from the standpoint of being able to appeal and for it to mean something to that fan who's out at the ballpark that doesn't follow the game like you all do, or that person that they envision that they're going to be able to send an email to or a text message to and sell them a hat or sell them a t-shirt. They want a name that is going to resonate with them somehow. What that is, I have no idea, or how you go about that. But their view is a much bigger picture view than that individual team appealing to its fan base locally. They think that they're going to do great big things by generalizing and making things in their minds easier to understand. People don't understand the current setup in the current system. We can disagree all we want. One of the things they showed us was they had done a survey that said a certain percentage, and it was over 50% of baseball fans couldn't identify where their closest minor league team was. Now, depending on how you ask the question, if they ask that question from people in the heart of every major league city, okay, maybe that's true. Maybe somebody in the Bronx doesn't know where their closest minor league team is. But you can't convince me that going across this country, if you asked everybody in this country, I think the percentage of where their closest minor league baseball team would be under 50%. They may not be a fan, they may not follow it, but you can't tell me that people don't know about it. Again, I apologize, another one of those rants.
It's quite all right. We've got through most of our questions. There was another one, hopefully, if there's optimism that maybe there'll be more TV and radio available at the minor league level, particularly TV.
I think the TV that you're going to see is still going to be an online streaming. I don't think it will be an over-the-air type of telecast. I think that what you will probably see is a higher quality of the production and the streaming that will be required. But that's another area where they believe that there is a market for minor league teams to be streamed and there to be a subscription service that people are going to pay for. Again, our position on that to this point has, yes, we do that. We think it's good for the industry to have that, but we think that it's primarily fans, or primarily moms and dads and other relatives and a few other baseball fans who are going to tune into that in any numbers that make it worth, investing hundreds of thousands of dollars in that and a whole lot of time and effort. They claim otherwise, so we'll see. But I don't think we'll see a significant over the air. They have Major League Baseball Network, and we had when MLB Network came online, we were getting about 10 to 15 minor league games, AAA games on a year then. And they've cut those down to only our All-Star game at this point in time. So Major League Baseball has always had the ability to carry more of our games and has chosen not to do it. We had pushed them to be our partner for the national championship game the third week of September every year, giving them that opportunity without any rights fee or anything. And they have declined that, saying that as they approach the Major League playoffs, they don't want to disrupt their regular programming in late September with a AAA game. So could happen, but I think it'll be online more than over the air. One thing you mentioned earlier that I really didn't follow up on, and that was related to scheduling and who you're going to play. During the 2021 season, I think you're exactly right. I think teams will see 4 or 5 maximum other opponents during the season. There's going to be as much effort as possible to keep teams off of airplanes. The other thing that they're talking about doing is to keep travel reduced. Talking about having every Monday be an off day, and then playing a 6-game series against the same team. So you would play a team 6 games at home, go on the road the next Monday, play somewhere 6 games on the road, Monday off, come back home, play somebody 6 more times. So the 2021 schedule is likely to be quite different than anything going forward.
Do you think, I'm answering asking a couple more questions from the chat line here. Do you think it's coincidence that the relationship between MLB and the minor league baseball got worse when Selig retired and Manfred took over?
100% yes. Commissioner Manfred is by trade a lawyer, a labor lawyer. He started out with a law firm that worked with Major League Baseball. He left there, went into Major League Baseball, negotiated a few of the player labor contracts, was deputy commissioner under Commissioner Selig, now obviously ascended to this position. The Major League Committee that was charged with overseeing this quote unquote negotiation was their labor committee. The three primary individuals, owners who were involved from Milwaukee, Colorado, and San Diego. Two of them being clearly classified as small market teams. The third in Denver, kind of a medium market. They were very hawkish. Had the president of a major league team say those are the same people that are going to get us in trouble with the upcoming player labor negotiations. So we'll see what happens. But this has been a labor approach. Again, not concerned about the game, in our opinion. Not concerned specifically. They think they're concerned about the fans. Everything they say they're concerned about the fans in our cities. But I don't think what they have done demonstrates that. So yes, it's all about this commissioner. This would not have happened under Commissioner Seeley.
The Tri-Valley Cats filed a suit against MLB and the Astros. And they're the second affiliate to file a suit. Do you think those suits will be successful?
Well, that's one of the things that has been discussed throughout this challenging time over the last many months is, what are your legal opportunities or possibilities? And you can follow that. And if you're willing to, if you think that you can go toe to toe with Major League Baseball and you can hang in there for the long term in some type of legal action, who knows? But with the wherewithal that Major League Baseball has, and that individual, even under the best of times, would minor league baseball teams have been able to do something like that individually or collectively, let alone now, again, when they're wounded in the water. I don't know any of the details relative to that particular action. I just think it's a real tough hurdle to clear and a long, slow slog trying to turn that into anything.
Was there any attempt to split the major league owners? Were there any major league teams who were really upset about the reduction of the minors? Or was it a unanimous kind of thing?
No. We have had positive conversations along the way in each of our teams with them. Take the International League, for example. Our Gwinnett team is 100% owned by the Atlanta Braves. Our Syracuse team is 100% owned by the New York Mets. Our Lehigh Valley team is 51% owned by the Phillies. Our Scranton team is 50% owned by the Yankees. Our Pawtucket, now Worcester team is 8% owned by the Boston Red Sox. You talk to those people and they don't support, they don't think it's a good thing, what's happening, which brings us back to continually asking, who's working for who here? If you don't like what's happening, why do you allow Park Avenue in New York to do this? And they simply say, we're letting the commissioner's office handle this. So they tell us what we want to hear at various times, but it has not resulted in any action. And it is entirely at the ownership level. This can't be laid at the feet of the player development people. or the baseball people in the front offices. This is entirely ownership. And what appears to have happened is the commissioner makes the pitch to the ownership saying, if you guys stick with me, we can get this done. Here's what we'll do for you. We'll not only streamline things, but as you're going to have to pay your players more, we'll find a way to get in the pockets of the minor league teams to help with that.
Okay. Back to COVID.
Sure.
Do we think we'll have fans in the stands this year?
Just this week, we took a survey of our clubs. We do think that we'll have fans in the stands, but that brings us to, things kind of come full circle. This brings us back to where we were last April and May, when we're talking about if we can open it during the 2020 season. At what capacity do we have to be able to open to make it financially worth opening the gates? Obviously, we can't survive by opening the gates with no fans. You've got all expenses and no revenue at that point. Our clubs have agreed upon the point that if they can open at 25% capacity, it's worthwhile to at least, they think they can break even by opening the gates at 25%. Now, many of the states that we're in right now, you could not do that today, but with the vaccines coming online, with the ability, it seems that there is a greater acceptance now of small groups being in pods, whether they be families or people that come to the ballpark together, so that you might be able to sell 4 or 6 tickets in it together and then socially distance that group from another like group. So we're optimistic that by the time it comes to opening the gates, that we'll be able to do that. The one thing I don't think we've touched on, it has been reported and probably in that Baseball America article, is that the plan is that when the major leagues open, AAA baseball will open as well. They do not wish to go back to the alternate site approach that they took last year. AAA baseball and minor league baseball would open at the same time. The rest of the minor leagues would follow roughly a month later. And the purpose for that being that AAA and the major leagues would go to spring training at the same time. They would not bring in all of those other players at that time. They'd wait till the major leagues and the AAA guys left spring training and then bring the rest of those players into spring training camps. So that is the plan at this point in time. The commissioner continues to tell the major league teams to prepare for opening on time. There is much behind the curtain speculation that that's not going to happen. It's more likely to be a month later. But as of right now, the official word is point for on time.
All right, Randy, we keep getting more questions. I don't know
Okay.
whether you have a time limit. I mean, I
No,
know
I'm
I kind of said we wrap up by 11, and it's 11 or almost.
No, I'm fine.
But I'll ask a couple more here.
Okay.
Okay. Based on some comments about the minor leagues being testing ground for MLB, how likely is it that Major League Baseball will require the minor leagues to keep games to 7 innings and see how it resonates with fans in the overall game time?
That's on my list of things that I have said to our teams over time, you need to be aware of, or we need to be concerned about as a possibility. I think it's a very real possibility that at some point in time, they want to play 7-inning games. I mean, with this runner on second base and extra innings, that was all about saving pitching, And now I read as early as this morning, Bob Nightingale posted a letter on an article on USA Today yesterday, saying that it's almost assured that that will continue for this season at the major league level as well. And you've got major league front offices and field people supporting it. So I think that, you know, we're in this period of time where they want to play less. If they can get away with playing less and charging the same, you know, the players are going to be all about that. The front offices are going to be all about that. I think it's a very real possibility that someday the major leagues are going to say, let's play 7 innings in the minor leagues, which again, is a concern. You know, one of the other things that I've said on there is that, and it's back to this spring training idea, you know, it's not beyond question that that they may have a major league player down on rehab that they want to have hit every inning. He's got to get his at-bats. Now that's totally off the Randy Mobley list. Nobody has put that forward, but I think those are the kinds of things that we need to be concerned about.
Here's a question about team values and financial assistance. I mean, it's normally assumed that a AAA team is worth more than an A team. And so is there any talk of financial assistance being offered to the teams that dropped in their classifications, like Wichita, San Antonio, and Fresno all went from AAA down? Was there any economic benefit for them, or not benefit, but are they getting any assistance?
Sure. Great area of questioning, and one that has been talked about a great deal. We have some evidence that Major League Baseball has done some individual deals. One that came to light was in Fresno. Fresno was asked to go from AAA to Class A in the California League. They resisted, they balked, they got the city involved, they got the city attorney involved. Don't know any of the, don't know for sure some of the details, but as a result of that, the club's obligation as far as a stadium lease was reduced, the financial obligation. Now, is Major League Baseball paying the city of Fresno to allow them to reduce that? There's still the same obligation, debt service on the ballpark. It's hard to imagine that the city of Fresno simply would say, yeah, we'll go ahead and absorb that. So it's widely speculated that Major League Baseball is providing compensation to address that. But as far as the franchise values, boy, that's one that's going to have to take some time to play out. But can say this, that I know for a fact that the teams that were elevated in classification did not pay anything for that. So unless Major League Baseball came out of its pocket, there is no pool for compensating those clubs that dropped down. There's no evidence that the Trenton club got anything from one day going from having an asset that was worth probably maybe as much as $15 million. And the next day, they're playing in the new prospect league that used to be the New York Penn League, without a Major League Baseball affiliation. So the economics from an asset value have again been turned on its head.
Thanks, Randy. 2 local questions. One, probably a yes or no. Is the International League office still open?
As of this morning, it is.
Second, go ahead.
As of this morning, it is.
All right.
Now the Pacific Coast League has already gone on record saying that they will shut down their office as of the end of April. We're having those conversations right now as to how long the office will be open.
Okay. The other one is that is Columbus in danger because it's uniquely owned by Franklin County. And it has a pledge to keep the park fan friendly. And how locally could we be impacted?
I quite honestly think it provides even greater protection than many have, that ownership. That can change with whoever happens to be sitting in the county commissioner seats at the time. But, since the late 70s, when Harold Cooper and his colleagues brought it back, regardless who have been in those county commissioner seats, they've always protected that ball club. And I have no reason to think that won't continue. So I don't think that it needs to be any concern whatsoever about the status or the continuation of the Columbus Ball Club. I think things are, it's going to present Ken Schnocky and his staff with some very significant challenges, but I see no reason why they won't weather the storm.
One subject, just it's an international league question. Do you think the Indianapolis Indians are they talking about changing their name?
Well, they have been in the midst of those conversations, hot and cold, for the last couple of years. With the recent actions by the Indians, the Cleveland Indians, that did fire that up again. The team would very much like not to make any changes. They link that name as much to the city of Indianapolis and the name of their city as they do any other association. So the outcome there is yet to be determined. They are hopeful that will not become necessary.
Okay. Well, I think I got through all the questions, Randy. I sure appreciate this time. I appreciate the patience when getting started a little late, but really appreciate your time today. If anybody has another question, speak up. But I think I think I got through all the things in the chat room, but they were coming fast and furious there for a while.
Well, while you see if there's anything else that comes in, thank you all for participating. It's good to see some familiar faces on here this morning. I hope that somewhere down the road can be with you all again. It may be in a different capacity, or certainly probably different from what I'm doing right now. But and I also thank you for bearing with me. Again, it's been an interesting, continues to be an interesting time. It's a challenging time. I have, from my personal perspective, as I started out by saying, this wasn't how I intended to finish things up, but that's kind of the way it goes. I've got a strong faith, and I've held on to the fact that if the good Lord has something else in mind for me that I'm supposed to be doing, then that'll present itself, and I'll go from there. And I also, I'm not sure it's appropriate to put God and Dr. Seuss in the same sentence, but Dr. Seuss had a quotation that said, "You don't cry on what you've had. You just be thankful for what you had, and you celebrate what you had." So that might be where I'm headed. But I thank you for bearing with me as I went on a few tangents here, and may have let a little bit more emotion and editorial comment enter into this than I might otherwise have done.
I just want to
Well,
thank
we
you for
thank
all
you.
you've done. You've done a great job as the president of the league, and
Yeah.
we love the International League. I do. So this is going to be a sad day if this
Yeah.
breaks up.
Well, thank you very
I know
much.
there's yeah. Well, thank you, Randy. I have just a couple administrative things to talk about for the chapter. Just a reminder that SABR Day's next, or the 30th. Register for that event, the national event. I think Bob Costas is one of the speakers. Second of all, we have our SABR Book Club on February 13th. and we'll be talking about Willie Mays and those books. So we have those things to look up to. So anyways, that's all I got. And I really appreciate everybody coming on board today. This was good. And Randy, I just thought you were genuine, and I appreciated that. I think it's because you care about the game, and you're talking to the right group of people. So I just appreciate it. So
Thanks, Randy.
okay,
Thank you, Randy.
Quite well.
Appreciate
thanks
it.
everybody.
Quite well.
Thanks, Randy. Have a good day, everybody.
Thanks, Blake.
Yep. See you guys.
Okay.